What is the Now You See Me franchise? They're heist movies, of course, but the vibes have changed. In its first installment, it felt like an aspiring Oceans movie. A star-studded cast, yes, but a less clean script. Clunkier character development, but a heist movie that's generally pretty clean-cut without too many major issues. However, the second movie veers more into the realm of Fast and Furious, as in let's do crazy, bombastic heists that push the audience's suspension of disbelief to its absolute limits. And I think the third one is even more that way. Any sense of smooth character development that was there is completely gone. We're now just going to go the Zack Snyder route of stopping the plot and having one character explain everything the audience needs to know about another. And the magic seems more and more like legit magic, or rather CGI. I think I can sum this movie up by just analyzing the first scene. Now You See Me, Now You Don't begins with a 10-year reunion show put on by the Four Horsemen, the original Horsemen, as Isla Fisher is back with them. However, the whole thing is truly smoke and mirrors, as impossibly realistic, flimsy screens were used to play video of the Horsemen carrying out the show, including all of them phasing into a not-so-random audience member's body and their voices being impersonated by someone who makes Frank Caliendo look like Stephen Hawking trying to do impersonations. The production is being staged by 3 young magicians who have orchestrated the whole thing to rob a crypto scammer and redistribute his ill-gotten gains back to the people he stole them from, essentially picking up the actual Horseman's Robin Hood torch. And right off the bat, it seems too impossible. First of all, the crypto guy, Andrew Santino. Apparently everyone there had to solve a series of clues to figure out where the show would be happening, but Santino doesn't even seem to want to be there, so how did he figure out where it was? There's no indication that he's there to try to expose it all or that they tricked him into going, like the French guy in the first movie. Second of all, those screens. I've waited in lines at Universal Studios. I know you can make it look like Hagrid and Thane are chilling in his hut, pretty realistically. But this is approaching parody, especially because plenty of the crowd members would be looking at the screens from almost the side based on where they are, so it wouldn't even remotely work. And how did they even get such realistic video of the Horsemen doing a trick they've never done? I get AI has come a long way, but you can still usually tell pretty easily when a video is fake. And third of all, the voices. Some young man is doing absolutely flawless impressions of all 4 of the Horsemen, including the woman. This scene is just so obviously shot with the 4 main actors on stage and voicing their own lines. And this is where this franchise has lost me. Now, I know a lot of people will say that the first movie was also ridiculous, but I disagree. Kind of. The ridiculous part of it is the idea that 4 magicians would not only be such incredible magicians, but also such incredible thieves as to rob a bank in France like they did. The tricks, however, the magic, if you will, most of it is fairly feasible, if not based on actual magic tricks that have been done before or are even common. The issues with the magic typically come from Merritt. His mentalism abilities cross the line from Oz the Mentalist into actual mind reading. And such uncanny group hypnosis aside, the times where he hypnotizes people basically on the fly within 2 seconds is ridiculous. Other than that though, most of the tricks are pretty feasible. Even the handcuff one Atlas does in the interrogation room if he had picked the locks beforehand. And the ones that aren't are usually unimportant to the actual story, like the bubble one or Henley's escape from the piranhas. Atlas's 7 of diamonds trick at the beginning? Not crazy at all considering the deck he shows the girl has multiple 7s of diamonds in it. Jack Wilder using playing cards as weapons? Also not super crazy. Someone got in the Guinness Book of World Records by throwing a playing card 190 feet at 90 miles an hour. And if you believe the people who created the movie, Dave Franco actually did cut up Mark Ruffalo in that sequence. And allegedly, he got so good at throwing cards that he could actually slice through a banana. If you can't tell, I'm actually a fan of the first Now You See Me movie. It took my suspension of disbelief to the edge, but never quite tipped it over. Because the tricks are actually explained, and they're mostly satisfactory explanations, particularly the big ones. It's never quite Batman disappearing from conversations within a second. The bank heist gets broken down, and it seems more explicable than David Copperfield's portal trick. Give that a Google search if you want. I mean, one of them is as simple as them getting Michael Caine's passwords. A guy from the generation known for being targeted by scammers.
Why did you redeem it?
Now You See Me 2, however, took things from cool sleight of hand, explainable tricks, and dedicated actors spending hours on end learning how to throw cards like they're a middle schooler with no friends to actual magic. Or as it's known in the film industry, CGI. Almost right off the bat, Jack Wilder, while still undercover after faking his death, confiscates a banana, of all things, and makes it disappear. Which is just straight up CGI. And there's lots of moments like this in the film, especially near the end, that are not magic or slighty, but just VFX the likes of Ben Kenobi. But I can pinpoint the exact moment the series lost me. It was right here. All of these impossible throws that somehow not a single security guard sees, and bringing it back to the movie that wasn't released 9 years ago, but rather a few days ago, Now You See Me, Now You Don't follows in the footsteps of the second movie, not the first. A bunch of CGI magic, and even the ones that the movie tries to pull back the sleeves on still don't make sense. The villain is boring and stupid, and unlike the first movie, there isn't a reveal that she was actually aiding the Horsemen the whole time to kind of justify any mistakes she made. The big final trick is disappointingly similar to the final one in the second movie, but also somehow worse. Less exciting and less convincing. Quick half spoiler alert for this section. Part of the trick is creating a fake environment to trick someone into thinking they're in a secure location when they're not. But the environment they're replicating is a top secret family vault that is 70 stories underground. They somehow convince the person they're trying to expose that she is going down 70 stories in an elevator that they are actually just rolling into position. You know how when you're in an elevator you feel it lurch when it starts and stops, and you can legitimately feel yourself going up or down? Well, even if they created the lurch to make it seem like it was going down, they obviously couldn't maintain that motion since it's not actually moving. And there's the slight problem of when you go 70 stories underground, or really about 7 feet underground, your ears are going to pop and you will feel the difference, even if you're in an elevator. But the ridiculousness doesn't end there. Once her elevator quote-unquote gets to the bottom, which she somehow believes, she steps out into a hallway that supposedly she would have been in before, and that the Horsemen have 1000% never seen. And yet she takes a look around it, even sees a painting on the wall, and apparently they nailed it.
It's insane!
Now you see me? No, now me see you. The third movie is tracking to follow in the second's footsteps, at the box office too. The second movie's opening weekend domestic box office dropped nearly 25% from the first installment. The third is just about matching pace with a $21 million opening. And that's not going to pick up. And unlike the first, which saw an impressive 1/3 of its total box office come from within the US, the second needed over 80% of its box office to come from abroad to still fall $20 million short of its predecessor with a bigger budget. But that's why you set a good portion of it in China, right? And Lionsgate knew they were going to have to bank on the same international audience, but they decided to go with the Middle East this time. Hey, at least they chose the UAE and not Saudi Arabia, so I didn't have to listen to another commercial for Riyadh season before it started. Hopefully the Arabs like CGI magic that could never happen in a live show in a million years, because gone is the actual creativity from this franchise. Now it's relying not on smoke and mirrors, but CGI, just like every other franchise.
All right, the sauce.
What?
The sauce. I don't know. You're using too much sauce, okay? Review's over.